We have a fine program for you tonight. Carol Kane will be joining us in the next half hour. It is both an honor and a pleasure to welcome my first guest tonight. If you've ever seen a film that he has made, you're no doubt a fan. The list is awesome. It Happened One Night. Mr. Deeds Goes to Town. You Can't Take It With You. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. It's a Wonderful Life. Meet John Doe. Arsenic and Old Lace. And many, many more. Welcome one of the greatest motion picture directors ever, Mr. Frank Capra. Capra, thank you very much. Nice to see you, sir. Thank you very much for being here.
What a happy show.
It's a pleasure to meet you. That list of films that we read off in the introduction.
Yeah. They're all good. They're okay.
Yeah, they're all okay. When you were working on those projects, did you have any feeling that these things were going to sustain or withstand the test of time, as they say?
Actually, we thought they were like newspapers, you know, you read them and throw them away. We didn't have any idea they'd have any value later on. You know?
Does it, when you see them still today, is there anything that just amazes you about them?
Yeah. I look at them, I say, they're damn good.
Yeah. Now you were, your parents were immigrants, right, from Sicily,
yes,
and you were a poor background, poor kid.
Yep.
How did they feel when you started having overwhelming success in the area of motion pictures?
Well, I'll tell you, my mother, she was a hard person, and she didn't unless you worked, you were a bum. If you drank or anything else, you were a bum. Now, she didn't think I was ever working. She'd ask me, "What are you doing?" "Well, I'm writing." She said, "Well, who would pay you for writing what?" So she kept saying to me, "Frankie, when are you going to find a job?" A job to her was a hammer, a saw or something, or a hoe. Well, she kept on this on all through the time. Now, when I got finished with Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, I took her to the preview of it. She was the first time she knew what I was doing. And I took her to a seat, and I was sure going to knock her right on her can, you know, she does all the time. Well, she sat through that whole thing with just and after we got through, people applauded and everything else. Here was my name and my picture in the hall. I said, "Mom, what'd you think of that?" She says, "Frankie, when are you going to find a job?"
That's amazing. We're going to take a look at now a scene from It Happened One Night. This is Clark Gable, and I believe this is going to be the famous hitchhiking scene. So we'll take a look at this from It Happened One Night, and then we'll come back and talk more with Frank Capra. Watch the monitors here, if you will.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, but it's no good, though, if you haven't got a long face to go with it.
Here comes a car.
Okay, now watch me. I'm going to use number 1. Keep your eye on that thumb, baby, and see what happens.
I stood up my eye on the thumb.
Something must have gone wrong.
Oh.
Try number 2.
Well, when you get to 100, wake me up.
I don't think I'll write that book after all.
Yeah, think of all the fun you had, though. Do you mind if I try?
You? Don't make me laugh.
Oh, you're such a smart Alec. Nobody knows anything but you. I'll stop a car, and I won't use my thumb.
What are you going to do?
The system all my own.
Was that a little racy for the times?
Oh, not too racy.
Yeah.
No, just no, we had racier than that.
Is it true that this motion picture was one that nobody really wanted to make or nearly did not get made?
Absolutely so. 5 women turned it down, and 2 men turned it down, and finally we said, we gave it up, to hell with it.
Mm-hmm.
No, let's not make it. But an order comes from MGM's boss, who was the boss of all the other bosses, and he said...
Who was this at the time?
Who was it? I'll think of his name in a minute. I'm lousy on names. He said, Harry, you've got to make that picture now. I said, why? He said, because I want to punish a boy down here that's getting a little... he wants a little too much money, and I want to punish him, but the punishment meant sending him down to Poverty Row to let him make a picture down there to see how it was. Siberia, see. So that's how we had to make the picture. We had to make the picture so that the man could be sent to Siberia. That was the idea.
Going to teach him a lesson.
Teach him a lesson.
Yeah.
He wants more money, let him see how it is, what he's missing up here.
Yeah.
Well, that's the way things happen. That's the way things were made in those days.
This is the film where Clark Gable appeared without his undershirt at one point?
That's right. He appeared without his undershirt one time, and most of the haberdashers got broke after that. They couldn't send him back.
We have to pause here, Frank. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. Frank Capra and I will return. Capra is here. Carol Kane will join us a little bit later. The names that we were trying to come up with, one was
Louis Mayer
at MGM,
and the other was Harry Cohn.
Harry Cohn, who was your boss at Columbia?
He was my boss at Columbia, yes.
Yeah. Okay, let's get back to Gable now. When we saw him in that clip, is that anything like the guy was in real life?
Yes, that is the real Gable. He was actually allowed to make only one picture, and that was it, in which he played himself. Mm-hmm. There he is, just as you see him. That's the kind of a guy he was in real life, and that's why you loved him so much throughout the picture. He played himself. He wasn't, in other words, he wasn't acting. That's wonderful when you get actors who don't act, but who play just as they would if there were no cameras around him.
An actor who was, in your estimation, and forgive me if I'm putting words in your mouth, who was the best at that, was it Jimmy Stewart?
Yes, Jimmy Stewart, I think, is the best actor that makes the audience feel that he is not acting. Mm-hmm. He's just living whatever that's why he's so effective. He's just a wonderful actor.
I read an interesting quote you had on that topic. You said when you look at Jimmy Stewart on the screen, you don't say, "Good heavens, what a great performance." What you say?
It's not what a great performance, but what a great person, what a great man he is, and whatever he was. Yeah. Not a performance. When you say performance, that means you are doing a performance of somebody else. You are playing somebody else. But Jimmy Stewart gives you the idea that there is no performance. He is playing himself. That's the part. He's living that part.
Yeah. Is there anybody working today that has that same quality that you feel to that extent?
Very, very few. Very, very few. They're not allowed to do that. They're really not allowed to do that. It's more. They have to act. Now, to act, anybody can act, but very few cannot act and be their marvelous self. Yeah. Just be yourself.
What about Gary Cooper?
I'm trying to be myself,
Oh, you're doing a fine job. Playing the part of Frank Capra.
Stumbling around.
No. Tell me about Gary Cooper. I know we got to go away for station identification, but let's get started talking about Mr. Cooper.
Gary Cooper?
Yes, sir.
I'll tell you one thing, all the women loved this guy. Oh, God, he was the greatest man. He didn't talk much. He didn't talk at all.
Uh-huh.
To get 2 words out of him, that was something.
All right, I got to get some words in myself. Let me interrupt here. We'll pause for station identification, come back, talk more with Frank Capra.
It's time.
No, George. I'm the answer to your prayer. That's why I was sent down here.
How'd you know my name?
Oh, I know all about you. I've watched you grow up from a little boy.
What are you, a mind reader or something? Well, who are you then?
Clarence Oddbody, AS2.
Oddbody. AS2. What's that AS2?
Angel, 2nd class.
Is that, would that be your favorite movie that you directed?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. What about Mr. Smith Goes to Washington?
Another one.
Yeah. Now tell me about that one. That Jimmy Stewart also in that. What kind of reaction did that get when it first came out?
Quite a history, and I'm afraid it might be a little long for you to hear. But we were in trouble with that film. We showed it in Washington to 4,000 people in a great auditorium, and they walked out on the thing, and they went thumbs down and all kinds of things the first time, and we thought we had a very bad show. Nobody in Washington liked it, and the reviews were terrible in the Washington press. The Washington press, you must understand, is not the same press as there is around the world. They're a really high elite press. They have a press club all their own. They can make or break anybody in Washington, but nobody else can. So they really have a high opinion of themselves. And when they saw this picture come into their preserves, where they're big power, press, power of the press, wonderful power, big power, right there. And they saw on the screen something come in that had much more power than their press. Wow.
Well, I can understand how the politicians might object to it, but I'm not sure.
No, not the politicians so much as the objective, as the press itself.
Did they feel that you had scooped them on uncovering something?
Suddenly they felt a tremendous thing has arisen that we don't know anything about, that overshadows us, overpowers us. Film press, film power. And the first time they saw it, film power, and they didn't like it at all.
Yeah.
So they gave the film the hell of a thing. Now, another thing, the war was on, and we got a big, long telegram from our ambassador in London that we shouldn't show this picture at all in Europe. Oh, don't show it because it's a picture that could be made by the Nazis in Germany. And the Allies would really not like this picture at all. Please don't show this picture.
This is the wire from Joseph Kennedy?
Joseph Kennedy. Joseph, father of the Kennedys. And this really floored us. So I made a great pitch to people at Columbia. Don't listen to politicians. Don't do what politicians... If you give the politicians the power to say to you, don't run this picture, it'll never end. They can always make you quit. Now, all right, it's made in Germany, and they're made where it's lousy, but do not suppress it because a politician said. Anyhow, we didn't.
Yeah.
And
how did that make you feel personally after putting your...
I was scared. Yeah. I was saying, geez, what the hell have we produced here? Some monster? A monster? But in about 3 years, I was in the Army, and we got the top. We got a topper to it. It was just perfectly wonderful. The Germans gave the French 30 days to play Western pictures, just 30 days, and they could choose their own films. Now, practically French practically included this picture with the with Jimmy Stewart in every picture in every film they wanted to see. One theater played it every day for 30 days.
This is
That's got a full crowd.
Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, and every time he talked about liberty, they got a tremendous applause. And this disproved everything that man had to say.
Yeah, I guess they were nervous because you were getting close to showing that it's possible that there is corruption on all levels of government. Huh?
That's it. That's right. And but I'll tell you that word freedom, when that came on in France, the French just knocked the house down.
What are you doing now? Do you ever get an urge to get back into active production of films?
Yeah.
You do. That would be great. Is there any possibility of that happening in the?
Just urges, my friend. Just urges.
Just urges. It's a delight to meet you, sir. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Frank Capra, ladies and gentlemen. Good stuff, Frank. Stay right there. We'll be right back with Carol Kane.